Hello, this is Mad Jen with Mad as Heck, Moms and Dads Associated Society, helping to educate conservative constitutionalists. Thanks for watching. Please share and please return often to see my latest videos. Today we're going to continue on with our 25 most obnoxious quotes by President Barack Obama. So with no further ado needed, let's go ahead and get started with the list. I believe last time we ended off on number 16. That means today we're going to start with number 15. So, quote number 15 is, the Cambridge police acted stupidly in arresting somebody when there was already proof that they were in their own home. What I think we know, separate and apart from this incident, is that there's a long history in their country. Who's they? Is that our country or is that some fictional there? Anyway, in their country of African Americans and Latinos being stopped by law enforcement disproportionately, and that's just a fact. Well, if you're talking about our country, which, sir, is also your country, well, at least it was starting about the time you ran for Congress, or state senator. But anyway, if you're talking about our country, maybe that's true. Yeah, maybe. But it also might be true that the reason why they're arrested disproportionately is possibly, and it's just truth here. There's no opinions of mine thrown in here with this, but it could just be because maybe blacks and Latinos commit crimes disproportionately to other races. Maybe that's the case. And whether or not that's the case, you, as President of the United States, really have no business in commenting on such things because you're here to run our nation or to govern our nation. You're not here to talk about blacks and whites and separating us and all that kind of crap. I know that's what you think black Americans want you to do, and maybe a lot of them do want you to do that, but I think a lot of them are coming around and realizing that they're smarter than you give them credit for, and they're tired of being manipulated by your race baiting and your just absolute obnoxiousness and ridiculousness. Moving on to number 14. But I don't want the folks who created this mess to do a lot of talking. I want them to get out of the way so we can clean up the mess. I really should do this in his ridiculous fake accent that he does, but I'm not real good at fake accents, at least not as good as Barack Obama is. I don't mind cleaning up after them, but don't do a lot of talking. Okay, then why don't you clean up after them? Please, we beg you, clean up after them. Instead, you're making a bigger freaking mess. That's what you're doing. You're making a huge mess. As a matter of fact, the mess is bigger than it ever was to begin with. So maybe it's you that doesn't need to be doing a lot of talking. Now, we already know that you already kind of don't, that Valerie Jarrett does all the talking for you and a lot of the governing for you. But how about when you leave office on January 20th, how about you don't do any talking after that date? We really don't want to hear your voice ever again. Really, absolutely nothing about you do we want to see, hear, or have anything to do with ever again. So let's remember your words in just a few months about how the people who created the mess shouldn't do a lot of talking. And why don't you follow your words? Because we're pretty sick of listening to you too. Number 14. If Latinos sit out the election instead of saying, we're going to punish our enemies and we're going to reward our friends who stand with us on issues that are important to us, if they don't see that kind of upsurge in voting in this election, then I think it's going to be harder, and that's why I think it's so important that people focus on voting on November 2nd. Yeah, people should focus on voting on November 2nd. But you know what I'm really sick of? I'm really sick of you putting one group against the other and saying, if you're not part of this group, then you're our enemies. I'm really fed up with that kind of leadership from you. Leadership. It's leading us into hell is what it's doing, because it's pitting one against the other. It's making blacks hate whites, whites hate blacks. There may have been a little bit of hatred going on there to begin with, simply because hatred exists in human nature. But you're making it worse, and we believe you're doing it deliberately. So, yes, we all need to vote on November 2nd. That's absolutely the case. But I'm really sick and tired of this whole enemy-friend thing that you're trying to foster in this nation. Oh, we're so ready to be rid of you. Moving on to number 11. The point I was making was not that grandmother harbors any racial animosity. She doesn't, but she's a typical white person. Yeah, well, guess what? Apparently you didn't learn any lessons from your grandmother, because it's pretty obvious that you foster a whole heck of a lot of racial animosity, which is really strange to me because which race are you representing? Which race are you hating? Which race do you have animosity towards? And why do you have such animosity towards that race? If you have animosity towards white people, wasn't it white people that raised you? Wasn't it a white mother? Wasn't it a white grandparents who made it possible for you to get into Ivy League institutions even though you're about as dumb as a freaking doornail? And wasn't it white people that made it so that you could be elected in all of your elections? Because I'm pretty sure that if white people didn't vote for you in 2008, you wouldn't be president today. So please explain to me what's all this animosity about? I don't know. I really don't know. We're moving on. The issue here is not going to be a list of accomplishments. As you said yourself, Steve, I would put our legislative and foreign policy accomplishments in our first 2 years against any president, with the possible exception of Johnson, FDR, and Lincoln. I can't even think of something good enough to say about that because it speaks for itself how completely delusional the man is. And it's really not so much delusional. I think, well, okay, yeah, it's delusional. But it's also very arrogant. He has an ego bigger than his ears, and that's pretty freaking big. And I don't know where he gets it from because it's not like he's ever done anything. It's not like he's ever really accomplished anything except for total destruction. When he was Mr. Organizer, did he do anything good for the area he was organizing? No, actually, it was just as much in shambles when he finished with that area as it was when he began. He's never accomplished anything in his life. And unless he thinks that Johnson, FDR, and Lincoln had pretty bad accomplishments, then I really don't know where he gets off with that. Except for, once again, it's an ego thing. The man can't get over himself. He just loves himself so very much. Let's see what else. We'll just end with number 9. I don't believe it's possible to transcend race in this country. Yeah, because that's all you want to talk about. You don't want us to transcend race because it's so easy to divide us based on race. Race is a factor in this society. The legacy of Jim Crow and the slavery has not gone away. It's not an accident that African Americans experience high crime rates, are poor, and have less wealth. It is a direct result of our racial history. I'd really like for him to explain that one because I'm pretty sure there was a such thing called affirmative action, and I'm pretty sure that there are a whole lot of black people out there who have become very, very successful in this nation. There are a whole lot of black people out there who have very high degrees in education and hold corporations, are the top of corporations. So what do you say to those guys? How did those guys get there? Once again, it's obvious that Barack Obama sees everything through the prism of race. And I would like to race him to the finish line on November 20th and see that once we get to the finish line, we have a jail cell waiting for him when he gets there. So we could throw the door behind him closed and throw away the key because I'm fed up with him and his ideologies. And I'm fed up with all the people who follow his ideologies of animosity and hate. Pretty much sick of it. So that'll do for today. If y'all manage to make it through without getting sick to your stomachs, then I applaud you, and I thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Long live the Republic.